Hello and welcome to Off the Field and Screens, the Detroit Way, a Detroit sports podcast. I'm your host, Chad Marriott. And this week, let's go ahead and just get this Lions loss discussion over with. I think the media focus, like everything in football now, is going to be very quarterback-centric. There's going to be an easy scapegoat in saying, oh, this is Jared Goff's fault. Now, I've never been the biggest Jared Goff fan, never been out there, hyping him up like crazy. I've been complimentary this year in that he's gotten a lot better at extending plays and finding ways to get the ball out. But I've never said that he's been the guy capable of going out and winning a game for a football team. Never said that. And I still don't think that is. I think he's a elite game manager and can win the game if the offensive line is dominant and the Lions are able to run the ball. And we're starting to notice a pattern that other teams are really selling out to stop the run, put the Lions in positions where where he has to drop back and pass in obvious passing situations, and getting that pressure on him. He's not that guy. He doesn't have the legs to get away, and he doesn't have the arm just to throw somebody open and make something magic happen like that. So I don't want to blame him too much. He is who he is. And for the record on that rushing stat, when the Lions run for 100 yards or more this season, they are 6-0. When they are under that mark, they are 0-4. And just to give that some context, last year when they were so dominant, they only ran for under 100 yards once, and that was against Buffalo, and they needed to do that because they got down early and really had to throw to try and stay in the game. So I think the media, like I said, going to throw the attention at Goff when really it's the offensive line through injuries, through losing Frank Ragnow, through losing Kevin Zeitler. This year already you're coming in with two new guys, Tate Ratledge and Christian Mahogany. Mahogany's on the IR. Tate Ratledge yesterday is playing through some injuries now. Graham Glasgow has not been great this year. Also tried to play through some injuries where they had to bring in Tristan Colon to come in. So you're getting down to like your second and third strings. And it hasn't been good. If they can't get the run game going and it's obvious that Goff has to drop back and pass, they're in trouble. And I think the solution to that, obviously at this point, is you can't magically make the offensive line better. It's going to be the play calling. And we saw a few glimpses of that yesterday where they did some quick crossing routes and some screen passes where you're going to have to try and do something other than the run to get that pressure off in that situation. Or maybe it's a better mix of getting David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs both in there in different situations, trying to get a little bit of that, a little bit more power sometimes, a little bit more speed. And Gibbs does everything really well. But I think if you can find ways maybe to even get them both in there at the same time like they've discussed, they got to do something to try and to get that run game going, because if they can't do that, they cannot win. They need the run game. They need the dominant offensive line performance. So they're going to have to do something to figure that out. And it's easy to sit here watching the game, sitting in my house, say, well, yeah, they got to run ball better. But they have to find a way. I mean, that's it. That's just who they are. That's their identity. That's how this team wins. They don't have the Matthew Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, even Jalen Hurts, who can, as we saw last night, make a few plays with his legs. I mean, that's really ultimately it for the offense. The defense, I think it's been made clear that the loss of Ben Johnson is way bigger than the loss of Aaron Glenn. In fact, I think that Calvin Shepard is an upgrade on Aaron Glenn. The Lions defense this season has been impressive. They've held teams to under 300 yards of total offense. I think it's 6 times now this season. Last year, they did it 8 times total, so they might pass that. But the bigger thing is, last year they allowed over 400 yards of offense. I think it was also 6 times. This year, they haven't allowed that at all. No team has gotten over 400 yards against the Lions. And the criticism or the critique or the pushback might be, well, they had so many guys hurt last year. They had a lot of guys hurt this year. And for the defense to improve and to still be consistent and perform without Pro Bowlers, guys out of the lineup, is really, really impressive. Calvin Shepard, I'm hoping that he wants to stay for another year because he's really good at his job. And it's the Lions offense went from the Lions defense went from a weakness to a strength on this team. And that's really hard to do. And the offense kind of took the opposite journey, which is also really hard to do. But at that, ultimately, the Lions' success for the remainder of the season is going to come down to, because I trust the defense. The defense is going to get the job done. It's going to come down to if the offense can get it rolling against better teams. Because another interesting stat is, technically at this point in the season, I think they have 2 wins against teams over 500. And if you include 500 or better, I think that number comes to 3, because Baltimore is at 500 now. And so let's just say 3 of their 6 wins, because they've lost to just about every elite team they've played, because they beat up on Washington last week. They got it done against Cleveland and Cincinnati, who are both not good at all, especially at the time we played them. And then they did beat Chicago. And the one thing about that is Chicago's not the same team now that they were when we played them, when the Lions played them. So that's going to be tough, that matchup at the end of the season. They lost to Green Bay. They lost to Kansas City. They lost to Philadelphia, and the loss to Minnesota could end up being a big determining factor in playoff seeding or whether or not they make the playoffs this year. Yeah, and then they did have that dominant performance against Tampa Bay, but that ultimately was just a defensive masterclass, because it's not like the Lions did something crazy. They had 164 rushing yards, 215 passing yards. Those are both good, solid. 379 total yards. It's good. It's really good. But defensively, they held them to 251 yards. Had 4 sacks, 6 punts. They went 4 for 16 on 3rd down in that game. Just looking back and pointing out the trend line this season is the defense is going up, the offense is struggling. And really it's about the offensive line struggling to help get that run game going, because if they can't get the run game going, Jared Goff goes from an elite game manager to a struggling quarterback. All right, so let's stop talking about that, and let's move on to the Pistons, who are in the middle of a win streak here. Sitting at 11-2, first time they've been 11-2 since 2005-2006, longest win streak since 2007-2008, and that win streak is up to 9. They got 2 wins in the in-season tournament now. And really the super impressive part of this is that they've been able to do this with the bench, with the reserves. Cade's been out, Asar Thompson's been out, Jalen Duren's been out, Tobias Harris has been out, Isaiah Stewart came back, and they still don't have Marcus Sasser and Jaden Ivey into the lineup. And particularly in the last week since we met, they beat Washington, Chicago, and Philadelphia. And in these games, Dennis Jenkins has kind of emerged as he's on like his Jeremy. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. His Jeremy Lin, his Lin sanity run. But I mean, really, they've been those three in that bench unit together. You could throw in some big minutes from Chaz Lanier, from Bobby Klintman, even from Wendell Moore Jr. It's been really impressive. So looking at Jenkins since that uh, that game against Washington, he had 24 points, kind of 8 rebounds. Came up big, hitting the three at the end to send it to overtime, and just on defense too. He really really reminds me of Lindsey Hunter with a more complete offensive game. I think that he could be the new era Lindsey Hunter, because his defense is also really impressive. Against Chicago, he had 18 and 12 assists. Against Philadelphia, he had 19 and 8 assists and won the trash talk battle against All-Star Tyrese Maxey, who kept pointing to the scoreboard when they were ahead. I don't like to throw this word around too easily. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more about another team. But Philadelphia is soft. They are a soft team, and that's why even when they've been good all these years, they've never won anything, because they are just organizationally a soft team. Even their coach throwing challenging plays that are obviously not going to go their way. It's just soft, all around soft. And some unsung heroes through this too. Duncan Robinson has kind of been the focal point of the offense, and everybody was in a panic about him coming in and kind of taking that Malik Beasley role. And I actually think he's been an upgrade there, because he's more consistent and he does more than just shoot threes. And for whatever reason, people want to call Beasley a playmaker. He really wasn't. He was a 3-point specialist. That's what he did. Because when he wasn't hitting his outside shot, it was where's Beasley? And that's not to diss on him. I liked him, and he had a phenomenal season for the Pistons. If the gambling thing comes through and they were able to add him to this mix, awesome. I don't know where they play him now at this point. Be tough to find a spot, especially when Ivy comes back. I don't think that's going to happen. If it were to happen, there would have to be somebody moved off this team to make space for him. And clearly they're not missing him that bad. Yeah, so the Pistons looking great, and I want to propose we bring back the Pit Bulls nickname from Lindsey Hunter and Mike James in 2004 for maybe the Pit Bull lineup with Jenkins, Javonte Green, Paul Reed, Chaz Lanier, and Bobby Klintman, or even Wendell Moore Jr. Call that lineup the Pit Bull lineup or the Pit Bull unit, because that is just so much fun watching them get out there, play defense, run the floor, get the extra rebound, make the extra hustle play, get out there and get that block shot out on the perimeter, make that extra play, that extra pass. That is a fun brand of basketball. It's not just gritty, it's fun to watch because they're making things happen, surprising you with the full length, half court shots, and the Paul Reed comes up with rebounds that I'm always like, how did he get to that ball? It's really fun. And then he'll occasionally have he had a couple of reverse jams last week too that was whoa, kind of came out of nowhere. They're phenomenal right now. And then let's turn our attention to the Red Wings. This weekend they came up with 3 points between the overtime loss after blowing a 4-1 lead, and then a really gritty win against the Rangers on Sunday, winning 2-1 with Lucas Raymond coming out and showing out. And so, they've gotten points in their last 3 games. So 5 points in their last 3 after last weekend. That's all they played. So they've been pretty good since last time we talked. last weekend it was starting, that word that I said before. I don't like to throw this around lightly because it seems like a cop out. Sometimes, oh, they're soft just because they're not a good team. But I think that's becoming a concern for the Red Wings, and that word's starting to float around, and some people are starting to use it. And it was really good to get that gritty win and to not back down from the fight afterward. That's huge. Get out there and show that you're not soft, because the soft, even whether it's true or not, you start getting that thrown on your team. The officiating gets worse because it's like, oh, you fell. You're being soft. That's why that happened there. Or, oh, it wasn't this. It wasn't a foul, or it wasn't a penalty. You're just soft. The officials start to buy into that because they're human beings. They're really good at their jobs in general across all pro sports. But that's what happens when a team gets that label, is that word gets in the official's head and it's in the background, and then they see something and they're like, oh, that's because they're soft. That's why that happened. And, oh, I'm not looking as close because, of course, that happened because they're soft. And other teams see it too. They think, yeah, they're soft. We're going to go out there and we're really going to give them the business. We're going to be more physical. We're going to take some cheap shots, because they're soft. They won't do anything. And then, or in hockey too, it's going to be the more aggressive forecheck, more aggressive on the puck battles and everything, because they're soft. They'll break. We just keep applying this pressure. It's not going to backfire on us and lead to an easy goal or a breakout or something. No, they'll break. They'll screw up. They'll throw the puck the wrong way, and we'll get some easy goals out of this. And that's true across all sports. If you get that label, people can't just bring it. They just absolutely bring it against you. And a few years ago, when the Pistons were really bad, they had that moniker of being soft, and teams shot out of their heads against the Pistons because, the defense wasn't great. But even for just general shooting percentage, it was way over the top for even playing against a bad defense, because they felt, these guys, they're soft. We'll crush them. This is like shoot around. And you get that, you get rid of, if you don't have that moniker, if you have a moniker for being a tough team, suddenly teams start making mistakes or overthinking, or, oh, I shouldn't put too much pressure because I don't want to get beat on this. And that's where you want to be. And I don't want to overdo it, but this weekend for the Red Wings was a mixed bag in that. Giving up a 4-1 lead to lose in overtime, that kind of gives into that, oh yeah, we can fall behind this team and we can still win. We just put the pressure on. They'll go into a stall. We'll come back and win this game. But then again, you get Sunday and you get in that battle and they win 2-1. And psychologically, Jonathan Quick was playing really well in the net for the Rangers. So it would be easy to say, well, goalie's having a good day. We're just going to lose this one. But they didn't do that. And a big thing for them in shedding that is they need, like yesterday and like a couple other times this season, they need Lucas Raymond and they need Moritz Seider to show up and be the leaders. Those young guys be the leaders, because the veterans in general aren't taking that toughness stance and making things happen. And then we're going to wrap up with a little bit of the Tigers. We haven't talked about them in a while. Not a lot going on in the offseason. There's a lot of chatter about Skubal and no actual official reporting, which is incredibly annoying that there's a whole economic ecosystem of clickbait articles being ran by them, nobody saying anything about Skubal, or the reading the tea leaves that everybody likes to do. I think ultimately with Skubal, the most likely scenario is he doesn't get extended, he comes back, and they try to really commit to try and win a World Series next year. And I know in free agency, people are thinking they're going to go after another starting pitcher. I'm very curious about how that looks, because you have Flaherty that opted in. You have Casey Mize coming back off of a decent season. You have Jackson Jobe coming back from injury. You have Reese Olson coming back from an injury. And you have Troy Melton, who was a breakout star at the end of last season and into the postseason. So that's 6 starters right there. And you have whatever, maybe you say Cater Montero's our depth option. He becomes our new uh, doubleheader, come up, come down. Although I actually prefer him moving to the bullpen and becoming like the right-handed Tyler Holton. So you have 2 of those versatility, like you could put him anywhere because he closed some games, he pitched in the middle, he had some long relief. You could spot start him for a 2-3 inning outing. I like the versatility that they could offer the bullpen with Cater Montero moving to the bullpen. But I understand too, with all the injuries, they're probably thinking at the very least they need to get some more depth. But if you get another starting pitcher, I almost think you have to move somebody because they're not sending Job or Melton back to Toledo. Maybe Job, but Melton certainly doesn't look that way. I guess they could say, well, Olsen will pitch through April, May, and then be hurt the rest of the year, so we got to get somebody for that. I hope not, because he's a legit number 2 starter when he's healthy. So I hope he stays healthy. And when Flaherty and Mize are going, this team, when they were pitching well, the team was playing really well. And for all the free agency stuff, I think they're waiting on a Gleyber Torres decision, and that's going to have some dominoes start to fall for what the Tigers' offseason is going to look like. Because if they bring him back, then you have Colt Keith that you got to find to put somewhere, and I think Torkelson's pretty well set at first base. So, and then you have, my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on some of the other names in the infield there. Like, who's going to play shortstop? Kevin McGonigal, sorry, I don't know why. And they have a few other guys in the minors that could be pushing next year. But is Kevin McGonigal going to break camp with the team? And where is he going to break camp? That's going to be another determining factor. Because if you bring Torres back, you got to have a spot for Keith. Is that going to be third base? So you got Torres at second, Keith at third. You platooning Javier Baez between short and center, and giving McGonigal reps at shortstop, second base, kind of moving him around. That seems possible. But if Torres if they can't manage to bring him back, that totally shifts the equation. You're going to see I think you'll obviously see the Tigers do some other things. Because maybe, Colt Keith can move back to second, and we're going to really push hard for a third baseman. Because I think that might be the best arrangement for Colt Keith, is to play second. But, yeah, we'll see. So that's what I'm really kind of curious about is the Tigers offseason. That's what I'm thinking is as soon as Torres makes a decision, a lot of other things are going to start to happen. Because then they'll know, okay, we got McGonigal, Keith, got to slide them in here. Who's going to play third? Are we doing another platoon with Ibanez and McKinstry? Are we going to just switch McKinstry to be the official super utility guy? And we're going to go get like a real everyday third baseman, which I think they should commit to. Not that I don't like Ibanez and McKinstry and Baez and all the different guys that they played. I just think the Tigers in general need a presence of stability. Somebody that's going to consistently get on base, somebody that's going to consistently, reliably hit, can be in the lineup every day, so that there's not these crazy changes and hoping someone gets hot like Jahmai Jones did at the end of the season. You don't need that if you have a consistent, hit for average, maybe some power guy at third base. Yeah, it feels a lot more sober and less panicky than at the end of the season, because the Tigers are still a good baseball team. They have a good base. I think if you get Torres back, and maybe even if you get Torres back, you say, I don't know, Javi, you can platoon. We're going to get an everyday third baseman too. We'll bring McGonigal up. And suddenly then you're like, well, where's Colt Keith? It's a good problem to have, but we'll see. I think that's really going to determine what they do and reveal what they're thinking. Because if they bring Torres back and go get an everyday third baseman, and add another starting pitcher like a top end guy and a top reliever, it says that, oh yeah, they're going to keep Scooble and they're going to go for it this year. They're going to put all the chips forward in terms of free agency, probably not trading any prospects, which is smart. But that would tell us, all of us, what they're thinking. And all right, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, follow. Check out offthefieldsandscreen.com. Got some cool articles up about the Pistons, Lions, Red Wings. Haven't had anything to write about for the Tigers in a while. Thank you. This has been the Detroit Way.